Welcome to the trilogy of my garage. First, we have my 2014 Shelby GT500 and newly announced 1965 AC Shelby Cobra, along with my 1968 Mustang fastback ongoing a coyote swap. Today we have a very special video here along with my 1965 AC Shelby Cobra, as well as my 2014 Shelby GT500, because they do share a similarity. Mr. Carroll Shelby's first and last iconic car that he has ever worked on, and today we're going to be doing a full review on these two amazing cars. What a privilege it is to own such an iconic duo right behind me. We have the first ever car that really put Carroll Shelby on the map and the last car that he left this world with. The S197 GT500, some would say the best ever GT500 to be ever created, and some would say the greatest Shelby to be ever be built, the 1965 AC Shelby Cobra. Today what we're going to be doing is a full review on these two masterpieces, show you how Carroll Shelby put these cars together, and just have lots of fun with these. So let's get started. Let's start off by doing the review on the GT500, and some would say, hey Nate, the 2013 GT500 was actually the car that he last worked on. If you know anything about the 2013 and 2014 Mustangs, not just the GT500s, they are literally the same exact car. With all that being said and done, let's go ahead and pop the hood and see exactly what he put underneath this car, because it's a very, very unique engine. Thanks to Carroll Shelby, we've been blessed with the largest modular dual overhead cam motor to ever be put into a Mustang, the 5.8 liter Trinity motor, which is in the 2013 and 2014. No other Mustang has this motor, and that's what makes this car so unique. Now, of course, this is not the stock version. I custom built this to make the Shelby 1000 build from Shelby American. I have a full series on this. If you have not yet checked out, go ahead and check out the channel, subscribe while you're at it to see the full build. I do have the Shelby 1000 requirements of 1000 horsepower to the wheels, and that is my build and my GT500. Let's go ahead and move on to my AC Shelby Cobra. Of course, this is not an authentic one. If it was, I would be a millionaire and probably have a lot more cars with me right here, as well as this is not an authentic replica, as those go for hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is a factory 5 kit that I have done a full review on. If you have not yet checked that out, make sure to go ahead and check it out. But let's go ahead and do a quick review once more of my new car. The AC Shelby Cobra is a combination of two cars put into one. AC Cars is a British car manufacturer that had a car, which is this body that you're looking at, but no engine. Carroll Shelby, on the other hand, had an engine but no car to put in, because everybody was denying him at that time. He also had a brilliant idea which nobody thought of, the advantage of power to weight. So with those two companies combined together, they created one of the most iconic race cars ever be built. So very much like the GT500, my AC Cobra came with a 351 Windsor, which is a 5.8 liter engine. And of course, you're probably thinking, why do you have a 427 badge? Well, that's just how these kits come, and I didn't build this. This is how I bought it, and we are going to be doing a project with the 427, so just go ahead and stay tuned with that. But we have the SB100 certified, built by Classic Roadster Cobra here, and this is the full entire engine bay, and it definitely does look sweet and sound even better. One thing that I really notice about the Shelby American brand is that they don't really care about interior at all. They're really about the engine and the performance, because looking at this interior, you have two seats, you have carpet, you have gauges, you have your steering wheel, the gearbox, and that's about it. They don't really care about the comfort, about the sound system, about the roof over your head. They just care about going fast. And of course, this was many, many years ago, but let's go ahead and check out the GT500 and see what the difference is. Now guys, when I show you the GT500, you have to keep in mind, I've done a lot of upgrades to make this a lot better, but just come with me and I'll show you guys the interior here, because it's not that much better. And anybody that's owned a GT500 or a Shelby American brand before he passed away knows that the interior is not the best. It was only after Carroll Shelby passed away is when Ford took the newer 2020 GT500, as well as the new Mustangs, the S550s, and really transformed the interior. Nowadays, interior looks really nice, but back in the day, very bland. You look at the Terminator Cobras, super bland. You look at the 2007 GT500s, very, very bland. Even the 1314 GT500s is a little bit of an upgrade, but not so much. The focus was not on interior at all. But let's just go ahead and check out what my interior looks like, the upgrades that I've done, and then we'll go on to the next thing. So this is the interior of my GT500, and let me tell you guys, I've done a lot of upgrades along with my steering wheel, forged carbon fiber, Formula One racing steering wheel. This is not how it came in. It is a very bland steering wheel, as well as all this carbon fiber underneath it is just a very cheap plastic. This is probably the biggest upgrade, as well as the seats that they have done with these GT500s. My favorite feature about my interior is definitely the Recaro seats. This is something that they did perfectly on. I love these seats and would not change them for anything else. Anybody that has owned a 13, 14 GT500 knows how comfortable these seats are. You get the leather, you get the suede, and it just really hugs you very, very well. The interior is also gutted just for weight reduction, but you also get leather seats in the back as well. I do have all of the upgrades here, which includes launch control, sport suspension, sport steering feeling. I do have the navigation, the Recaro seats, the leather. The only thing I don't have is the glass roof. If you have the glass roof option, just know I'm very, very jealous of you. I wish I had that, because that is a very special GT500. But besides that, that is all of my upgrades here. And to be completely honest, the interior can be a lot better, especially looking at the newer Mustangs and newer cars out on the market. It also does come with the Shaker 1000, which I really like. The sound system on this thing is incredible. But back in the day when this car first came out, for about $50,000 to $60,000, depending on how you option it out, you're not really paying for the interior. You're paying for the power and the performance, as well as the legacy that this car brings. And that is the reason why I bought my GT500. So now that we've talked about the interior here, very bland, but still a great experience, let's go ahead and look at the rears of these cars. Here's the rear of the GT500, as well as the AC Cobra. Very, very different. Of course, we have the Mustang chassis, as well as a British manufacturer AC cars, but nonetheless look very, very good, which some would say, and I totally agree with, this 2013, 2014 is the best rear end styling that Mustang has ever come out with, and I absolutely love it here with the tail lights, with the quad exhaust tips, the wing. Everything here just looks so, so nice. Going on to the rear of my AC Cobra, something that's very unique about this specific model is that I have the wide body package. It is actually 2 inches wider on both sides, 4 inches wider in total. The AC Cobras are a bit smaller. Factory 5 kit that I have here, built by Classic Roadsters, allows for a meteor tire in the rear. So that's one very unique thing about my kit, is that it is wider, which is one of the things that I really, really like. You also do get these racing stripes, which is pretty cool. I also had matte black racing stripes, which I've never really told you guys. They were actually not on when I bought it, but I found out by the previous owner that he took out the matte black stripes. But matte black stripes wouldn't look too bad. I really do like the stripes. That's what really makes these cars iconic, and just says race car all over it. I absolutely love the exhaust setups on both cars. We have the quad exhaust here on the GT500, and then on the Cobra we have these side exits with the headers poking out as well. This exhaust setup is probably one of my most favorite. It's definitely unique and different on both cars, and they both sound amazing, as I have shown you guys in the beginning of the video. What do you like better? Do you like the quad exhaust sticking out in the rear, or do you like the exhaust to be right by your ear when you're driving? And lastly, let's go ahead and talk about the wheels here. We have the staggered setup on both the GT500 and the Cobra here. Here we have the Mickey Thompsons with the 15-inch black wheels, and they just look so good. But look at those rears. They look so meaty, and I love this stance here. With the GT500, we have the Super Snake wheels from a Shelby American in the front, and then we have the Mickey Thompsons out in the back for the drag racing pack, and those are thick as well. Wheel setup is pretty dope on both cars. Also, just the looks of them. Look how aggressive the GT500 looks, and look how sweet and innocent the Cobra looks. Both very, very menacing underneath the hood though, that's for sure. Driving this lightweight car with a lot of horsepower is a lot of fun. So now that we have done a review on both the Shelby GT500 as well as the Cobra, let's go ahead and take them out and do a little review. Of course, these are not authentic, but I'm gonna try my best to really tell you and understand the differences between these two cars. They are far from stock, both of them. We're gonna get a pretty good idea, and I really want to put these two cars together and show the differences. Let's go ahead and fire up the Cobra. Put on our gloves. It's not the warmest day, but cool days are always good for the Cobra. That's one thing about this car. Gloves just make things a whole bunch better. If I were to describe this car in one word, it would be raw or powerful, one of those two. You don't have the comfort features like you do in newer cars. You have solid motor mounts here. You feel the rock of the motor. The throttle is just so hard to push. You just feel the horsepower, and every single thing about this just screams out race car. Power to weight, man. This car is absolutely incredible. It only packs about 400 horsepower. But let me remind you, we're in a 2,400 pound car. Back in the day, nobody thought of this besides Carroll Shelby, to put such high horsepower in a tiny car. And that's what made this car so iconic. Just driving this thing, you feel so lightweight, almost as kind of like you're in a motorcycle, almost, but you just feel so much horsepower pushing you through these roads. It's absolutely incredible. Power to weight is the key to this. If we were to put like 500 horsepower, 600 horsepower, around that mark, 550 maybe, through the Cobra, it would actually compete with the GT500 at 1,000 horsepower. I'm very curious. It makes me really want to do it because power to weight is something that all racers look into. And yes, even though having 1,000 horsepower is a lot and it's very fun to say, in a 4,000 pound car compared to a car that weighs 2,400, you don't need 1,000 horsepower in the Cobra to compete with the GT500. I would guess about 550 to 650 in this car to really compete with the GT500, and that might be one of the goals that we set out here for the channel. Now, when we talk about gas mileage and this car at the pump, they're both really bad. This is a carbureted V8 motor, which gets about, on average, 8 to 10, which is the same exact thing as my GT500. They're really, really bad. However, it's not necessarily about the miles per gallon, but the smiles per gallon, and I will pay $100 to fill up this car any day of the week. We got all filled up. Let's talk about the popularity, the driving experience, and just like overall ambiance that you get driving this car. It blows the GT500 out of this world. Like, this car compared to the GT500, just driving it, gets tons more attention, tons more stares. Lots of people love this car, which makes sense because it's such an iconic car. Don't get me wrong, the 2014 GT500 is very iconic, but when you put them two side by side, the Cobra is always going to take the crowd. Love to see it though. GT500 is more of an undercover car. Very much car enthusiasts love it. Also, power steering, non-existent. It's a manual steering. Everything's here is very, very classic here. T5 transmission, 5-speed. We'll talk about the drivetrain when we get to the GT500, but the clutch is very, very soft in this one. It's not the best clutch, but it's very easy to drive. Surprisingly, this car is a lot easier to drive than the GT500. GT500 has such a massive supercharger and throttle body. I'll get more into it when we start driving the GT500. This car is very easy to drive. Anybody can drive this car. Even somebody that doesn't really know manual, I feel like can drive this car very, very well. So much fun. You get the exhaust right here blaring into your ears. You guys probably can't hear it. Audio is not the best. It's such a good feeling. You smell the exhaust, you hear the exhaust, you feel the motor, you just feel everything driving this car. It's very raw. That's as best as I could really put it. It's a damn fun car though, that's for sure. This is definitely, as mentioned previously in one of my other videos, the funnest car I've ever driven, and definitely the most fun out of my whole fleet. This car has a lot of potential, lots of potential. I really want to do more with the motor. 427, the exhaust is something we're going to do definitely. I also really want to feel more of a track car. This has the rear end, solid rear end. You can opt in for the independent rear suspension as well. This one has a solid rear end, really good for the straight line drive course. But I also really want it to be good on the track, because that's one of the things that made this car win races. So I really want to see if I could get some type of independent suspension so I could really take this to the track, upgrade the braking system, and I think this car would be an absolute animal. That pretty much wraps up the Cobra review. Let's go home, pick up the GT500, and see the difference between that car and this one. We're now in the GT500. Let's go ahead and fire her up, take her out, and see how it compares to the Cobra. If I were to describe the GT500 in one word, it would be menacing. Everything about this car is so aggressive. From the throttle, from the supercharger, from the exhaust, from the idle, from the looks of it, from the comfort, just from the experience. Everything is just so in your face. Let's get some exhaust notes here. You also can't really hear the exhaust as well as on the Cobra. As the Cobra exhaust was right here, you get the exhaust point in the back. You can still hear it because my car is incredibly loud. I do have the Ford Performance Ford Racing axle backs with the American Racing long tube headers, and the X-Pipe is my current exhaust system. Dual overhead cams, you don't get the rough chop like you do with my 351 Windsor as a pushrod motor. The dual overhead cam does overlap a tiny bit. You chop. It definitely isn't stock. As stock, you would not hear anything, but this particular setup, which I have here, is cammed. However, it doesn't have the cam sound. These cams love to perform, and I chose performance over the sound for this case here. They do very, very well in the high RPMs, and they're very good. They're from L&M NSR cams. But if I did have the opportunity to make it really choppy, I definitely would, because I love the chop of American muscle cars. Now let's go ahead and talk about handling. This car has one of the best handling packages out here. Back in its day, it finally had its first real life of hitting the course. They had the track pack, which includes your steering wheel feel, the suspension feel, as well as launch control. And handling, in my opinion, is better than the Cobra, just because the Cobra doesn't have all of the technology and the upgrades that this GT500 has. So this definitely takes it for the speed, the power, as well as the traction. But they're two different animals, and you can make the Cobra as good or even better than the GT500. But you could still compare the two cars. I don't know what it is, but these two cars are two completely separate, different cars. This is more of a drag, straight line type car, while the Cobra is such a lightweight drag as well as track car in one. I have taken the GT500 to the track. I have yet to take the Cobra there just quite yet, but this car does not really thrive on the track, and I really want to see the differences between the two. Carroll Shelby was always about the big engines, the big horsepower, and that's what this car is. However, one of the things about this car that kind of contradicts it is how much this car weighs. The GT500s usually weigh around 4,000 pounds, which is not like the Cobra at all. I kind of feel like he had his hands tied behind his back, because personally, if it was Carroll Shelby, this car might have weighed about 3,200 pounds and would have had a 7-liter modular motor underneath the hood. Very curious. I definitely want to learn more about exactly what caused this full setup, the 5.8 liter, as well as how heavy it is, but he definitely still put it together in a beautiful car that really opened the fields for generations to come. This car is very, very special. It's the last ever manual GT500 that Ford will produce here, which also makes it very iconic, because the manual is currently dying in this new age, which is sad to see. But performance in an automatic is unmatched, especially with the automatic transmission in the 2020 GT500. You can't shift faster than an automatic, but to have the last ever manual transmission, as well as the biggest modular motor that Ford has ever produced in a Mustang, definitely separates this from the pack. They're both legendary cars, no matter how you put it. The GT500 is a master in its own class, the Cobra is a master in its own class, and I love them both. I wouldn't trade them at all here. Carroll Shelby's work on both these cars, definitely untouched by no other car manufacturer that I can possibly think of. Definitely owning these two cars is a privilege to have, and I'm super excited that I can go ahead and drive these cars and provide the information to you guys. So there you have it, the comparison of the GT500 and the AC Cobra. Carroll Shelby did great in both of these cars, and there is the differences between them two. Different beasts, different cars, but they definitely dominate in every single category that they are in. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Subscribe down below. Also smash the like button. I'll see you guys on the next one.